Hey, welcome to Uthdoc in 2021. Today I want to talk about calendaring a little bit in the world of COVID-19. Normally, I would be thinking in terms of annual calendaring. I would be starting that somewhere in kind of the May time frame, trying to get the calendar ready by the 1st of September, if not middle of August, working through my committees and such, and presenting that to my parents then in our first parents meeting in September for the entire year. I will go over that process later after we're out of COVID-19, but right now in the middle of COVID-19, it's like all that is out the window. So today I want to talk about planning in groups or blocks in kind of a 2 or 3 month implementation process or mindset in how you plan, but still think in terms of planning out further than just this week, next week, or the such. To start with, for January, February, my thought was, and planning was just kind of don't really nail down the dates till you're closer to that month, like the last week of the month before the next month is when I really nail down the dates for that next month, because things in COVID world have changed or are changing so much. So I just finished up my January calendar to get it to our students for the first time we met, which into this filming they met last night. And so even in there, I got a promo from our state convention for a virtual YEC, Youth Evangelism Conference, an opportunity I decided to take advantage of for our students. So even as of yesterday afternoon, before I presented to our students, I ended up changing our calendar. Normally that wouldn't happen in a normal world, but in the COVID world, I felt like I could make that change. I also have some ideas basically for February and what we're planning on doing, but that's yet to be seen. The dates are down, and I'm thinking in terms of these will probably work, but things could change. I don't know about your location, but for our location, even the sports, as we talked about planning for January, February, my wife and myself, even sports are still up in air as whether or not going to have sports or not, because sports for my youth ministry has a major effect on the attendance, how many students can be here, how many students would attend sports as spectators if that's allowed, how many students play sports. And as I make this video, just yesterday morning, our news was giving broadcast about school board meetings still talking about this thing of spring sports, winter and spring sports. So that has an effect. So that's why I'm planning very close to that month right now. Once you move past kind of the January, February, and you get into March, April, and May, I'm thinking in terms of the bigger things, like what do I want to do? What are some things I can do? And then in that process, not necessarily lock down dates yet, but okay, in March, these are some things I want. In April, these are some things I want. And in May, these are some things I want to kind of see done as a possibility. Also, as we think about March, April, and May, I was excited and talking to our children's minister about this concept, this idea of being back outside. Seems like from this past year, the virus did not have near the effect on outside events as it did inside events, from fresh air, sunshine, heat, humidity, those kind of things. And so I'm kind of waiting and beginning to talk in March, April, May about some of those issues. One of the things in planning and thinking and dreaming, and I began this process now with some youth ministers, is what are some things that you may have done inside, like last year or the year before, because last year kind of got shut down and we were all caught back. What are some things maybe you've done inside that could be moved outside, even in the way of sports? And so in our area, we have a volleyball league that's a spring league that I began now the process, and as I've taped this, I began the process of connecting to leadership about what if instead of doing a weekly volleyball game in a league situation, we do some mini volleyball tournaments outside with the various youth groups. So rethinking how we do that. Once again, March, April, May, we're thinking in blocks, not necessarily nailing down dates yet, because as we get a little closer, into February and maybe into March, we'll know more about how many vaccines are out, how well that's taking, whether the aspect of getting COVID-19 is going down or whether it's still escalating, whether hospitals are being freed up, those kind of things of COVID-19. So as we move a little closer, we'll begin to plan, but right now I'm planning in blocks or big ideas for March, April, May. Then in our summer months, we are still planning to go to camp this summer. We are still planning to have a missions trip this summer. And what I want to warn about that is hopefully everything will be freed up. Hopefully we'll be back to VBS and all those various things that are awesome summer things in youth ministry. But what I want to warn in this tape about is as you plan those things, as you lock in those dates, I would encourage you to think in terms of registering with somebody who guarantees that if you need to pull out on your own, that you'll get your deposits back. Many of your national missions trips, many of your national camps are gonna lock you into your deposit. Some are asking for deposits now by the end of this month in January 2021 for this summer, and none of us know what's gonna happen. I know last year we registered a small group for a national camp, and that national camp gave us our money back because they canceled camp. If they have not canceled camp, I would have lost all those deposits if my parents had a panic and pulled the kids back. And I want to challenge you that your parents may panic. You may say, I'm going to this camp, we're going to have a great time, we're going to register this many kids, or we're going to do this mission trip and register this many kids. But if COVID is putting pressure on parents still as we hit summer, which we hope it doesn't happen, but you could have your parents possibly pull out, and now you're stuck with that deposit, or you've upset parents because you've stuck them with that deposit. Case in point, in 1999, the denomination I'm with scheduled a major youth event called Uthdoc 2000. 6 Superdomes across the United States had been rented, and this was going to be the greatest youth event ever. Students from all over the country were going to go to these 6 Superdomes. They were going to be interlinked, and we were going to usher in 2,000 in this large youth gathering at multiple Superdomes. My students and myself, my wife, we went to Atlanta. We registered. I registered like 40 some students based on the size of our youth ministry at the time, and I took like 20. So I lost that money. It was one of the biggest disasters, I would say, from this denomination that I served in ever, because all these Superdomes were booked long before, a few years before the event took place. And then as we got into 1999, all of a sudden Y2K. And Y2K was going to be the crash of all computers possibly, and basically the destruction of civilization as we know it. And parents did not want their kids to be gone. I had 2 small children at the time. My wife even had us take our 2 small children because her words were, if the world collapses, I want all my kids together. And so I had 2 kids that were teenagers. I had 2 small children, and we were all together at this event, Uthdoc 2000. And I had to look at my wife and say, well, if you want all your kids, we can't look down on any of our parents who decide not to send their kids with us. They want their kids at home with them. And so that event took place, lost money in that situation, and if you're not careful, that's going to happen on your camp or your missions trip during COVID-19. This year we'll be connected to a camp that's locally ran. I'm a part of the leadership structure, and so if I'll need my money back, I'll be able to get that back. Notice they will work with me in that situation for the summer camp that we're going to do. Missions trip, we're connecting with a missionary, and in that connection to the missionary, connecting with a church to stay out, we'll be building our own mission trip. So if we cancel, there will not be any money involved because we're not doing a missions program in that way. We're going to be doing some inner city work at a mission organization that we know about, that we've been connected to before, and make those connections. If you're in a denomination, you may check with your denomination, either your local area, your state area, or your national. They may have some projects like that. Different denominations will list projects where you don't have to go through like an organized missions team approach where you have to pay a deposit and you pay so much per student to go do this mission trip. That if you do your own legwork, you can plan to meet the missionary, go do site prep, find a church or a place to stay, a school or something to stay with your kids, and be able to pull off your own trip that you build and customize customize with the missionary to go in there and support that mission for whatever that may be. And that would give you some flexibility then in what you're doing, so that you don't necessarily have a lot of money tied up, that if you have some students that won't go, a large number that won't go, that you don't lose your money because of deposits that they won't give back. Some of those missions projects that we've done over the years, we've done resort ministries before down in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. We did a church plant in Erie, Pennsylvania, using telephone survey work. We basically just picked up the phone and we were telemarketers, telling people we were starting a church. So we did that. We've done backyard Bible clubs. We've done vacation Bible schools. We've done survey work in apartment complexes for a bus ministry. So there's a lot of different style projects that you can do with your students, that you're working directly with the missionary, so that deposit is not required from the standpoint of losing that if COVID was to drag on into the summer. So I hope some of these ideas helped you just a little bit. Nothing major here. We're all in this COVID kind of ditch together, trying to figure out how do we maneuver, how do we climb out, and just thought I wanted to give a few ideas about planning as we go from here into the summer. And I'm looking myself to begin in May to strategically begin to work with my leadership team towards once again planning annually for 21-22. Right now I'm going these blocks that I just shared with you, and just thought I'd share that with the group today. Maybe it'll help you a little bit. Guys, if you got some planning ideas, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Other people could see those and some things that you're doing. Different churches are doing different things. I know in my area I've got some that are just, there is no COVID. Let's just do everything. For me and my church, like, we're not allowed to use the church vans because of 6-foot distancing and that kind of stuff. So we're in a hybrid situation. We are still meeting. Some people every now and then I'll see on posters still not even meeting with your teenagers. So I know we're all over the place there, but even when you're all over the place, you can still plan. It's just that you got to bring the planning a little closer to home. You can think out further in bigger blocks, but when it comes to setting dates and stuff, pull that closer to home. And I hope that can help. Drop some comments if you've got some ideas. I would love to hear from you. Love to see what you got to say. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I try to put out content about once a week to once every other week, just with a 30-year veteran, just trying to give some advice to some student pastors out there. Once again, I appreciate you watching this.